Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's webinar on early notifications and intervention webinar. We brought to you by ShopCare, and I'm your host for today. It's Wes. We're delighted to have and join us today the three grateful practitioners out there, and I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves, and they'll be sharing some of their experiences and answering some of the questions that I know that is really value to us all. Before we dive in into today's session, just a quick one from a ShopCare perspective. I don't know if you've noticed, but we have developed with industry as well as licensed ergonomists, and we put together what we believe is a pretty comprehensive early notification of discomfort and pain guidance document. And if you haven't grabbed a copy just yet, please feel free to scan the QR code and grab yourself a copy. That would be amazing. Then please use this chat function. I'll be monitoring it in the background, and towards the end, we will ask questions towards the panel, and they'll answer to their best capabilities when they can and how they can. So, don't know if some of you have known, but the recording is being, the webinar is being recorded. And we would like to share this as far as wide as possible. You'll be able to access the recording on our website as well as on YouTube, and this is just to help build capability. So from my end, I'll introduce quickly, handing over to Carol Vandenberg and to Deborah Douglas, as well as Kerry Ann. And they both are three really well-respected health and safety well-being practitioners, and we are really grateful to have them with us, and also giving up some of their time and sharing some of the good work that they've been doing. What is also nice about today's webinar is it will not focus on the exact same thing, but every single individual that will be presenting today will give a different angle, from early stages to full-blown. What are they experiencing at their business, as well as focusing on the psychosocial side of early notification as well, and how that impacts their business. So that's quite a good mix, I believe. And now I'll be handing over to Kerry Ann to quickly introduce herself, and off you go.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Wes. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Kerry Ann Martin. I also go by the name of Cam, and I have been in safety for the last 15, 16 years. I'm obviously getting quite old now. Started off mostly in manufacturing and have recently moved into a more corporate role within my role here at Nestle, where I've been doing a lot more focus on sort of the well-being and the psychosocial aspects. So that's what I'll be discussing today. So please, if you've got questions, put them in the chat. Not an expert by any means, but it's a passion of mine, so we'll hopefully have some answers for you. And now I'll pass over to Deborah.
Hi everyone, thanks Kerry Ann. Great to be on the panel with these two awesome ladies in safety. Yep, I come from ASB. I have been at ASB for 3 years now. I am a seasoned practitioner, worked around the world in various different industries, from very high risk oil and gas to now ASB, where we still have risks. However, I think, like Kerry Ann, this is a real passionate of mine, as I've seen the results in having an early pain and discomfort program. So again, I'm not an expert in this field. However, it is a passion, and I have a desire to learn more, and can really see the difference a program like this could make. So I'll hand over to Carol.
Oh, thanks, Kerry Ann and Deb. Very kind words. No pressure. Hello, everyone. Really lovely to be here, and thanks, Wes, for inviting us to just share our journeys. I am currently the Senior Health and Safety Advisor for Harvey Norman, New Zealand. So this is my first sort of stray into the retail space. I have an extensive background in FMCG, and before coming to Harvey Norman, like Kerry Ann, was involved in safety in manufacturing at Goodman Fielder, and we did a lot in the early notification of pain and early intervention of discomfort and pain. So So I am going to kick off the session. How long have I been at Harvey Norman? Coming up 3 years. And so, yeah, it's an interesting space to work in, just the retail. Our lovely assistant, Wes, I'm going to ask to click over to the slide. So I'm going to be starting today's session because like every good story, and here I reference Lord of the Rings, every good story has a prequel, and Harvey Norman is no different. And I'm hoping our story will be as successful as Lord of the Rings. But I say the prequel because we don't actually, as yet, have an early notification of pain program. But I'm going to take you along our journey because perhaps some of you are where we are, and there might be something helpful in this for you. Thanks, Wes. So just having a look at holistically what an effective injury management program or system looks like. So for me, it's those 3 pillars. So obviously our first pillar, and where we want to do the most work in, is preventative, right? We want to first stop anybody from becoming injured in the first place. But despite our best efforts, and for reasons that our other 2 presenters will reference in their talk, pain and discomfort happens for a variety of reasons. It could be, task related, it could be psychosocial, it could be a number of reasons. But that's kind of the first indicator that something's gone wrong. So we want to do, a bit of work in that space as well. Where we want to really work the least in, but unfortunately, I think a lot of time we end up working quite a bit in, is managing injury. So once someone has been injured, and then we have to wrap some care around that. So that sort of supports the structure of prevention being our larger base, and then of course the early intervention. But sometimes it does end up actually needing medical treatment. So that's kind of the space that we all want to work the least in. So thanks, Wes. We'll just have a look and see where we've come so far. So when I joined Harvey Norman, we had, I think, by and large, quite a low level of awareness amongst our proprietors and store managers, just in terms of the ACC and work-related claims and how that whole process works. There was generally a perception that, a person was hurt at work, ACC are dealing with them, and we'll just be hands off until we hear from the employee that they're ready to come back to work. So there was very little or no involvement in some cases with the injured worker, and again, very little knowledge of how ACC works, and a lot of the time, our safety team at head office didn't even know, that we had someone off for weeks, sometimes, longer, on a work-related claim. And so, we were like, not great. So we need to put some structure around that. So, moving just the next sort of level up from that, there was some involvement with those longer claims, and some communication improvement, but really we found there was still a lot of room for improvement. So that's when we got APM Work Care, and I don't get any commission on this, but I've worked with APM before and found them really good value. So got them into our workplace and said, hey, we'd love to work with you to help manage our injuries. So that's what we did. We put a program together, educated our proprietors and managers, and said, listen, if you have someone that's injured, either work related or not, we have partnered with APM who can help you support your injured worker back to health. And I'm always sort of careful to say back to work, because that's not, yes, that's an outcome, but for me, the primary goal is to get them back to the way they were before. Not just so that they can come back to work, but they can enjoy their life as they did before they were injured. And so we've had this ongoing training and awareness campaign, and we've seen so much, so much improvement in that area. So in our last levy invoice from ACC, we saw a $60,000 reduction on our levy costs. But more importantly to me, it's that our employees feel supported. We all know what it's like, the difficulties or the challenges of giving ACC a call. It's kind of this big, faceless organization, and when you pick up the phone, you don't know who you're going to get or how many times your call is going to be transferred. So for us partnering with APM, it's given our managers and even us in the health and safety team, and again the injured worker, a single point of contact, which just takes a lot of the stress away. They're already not feeling great, so the more we can reduce the stress or little frustrations around their claim, the better it is for them and everybody. So what we're going to look at next, because for me it's the next logical progression, is to introduce a formal early notification of pain program. So I guess we've been using our data and our success to date to build a really strong business case for putting forward that proposition. But yeah, it's one that I'm excited to present to our business. Thanks, Wes. Is that my last slide?
Yes, thank you very much, Carol. Really appreciate it. We'll move on to Deb now. Deb, off you go.
Awesome. Can everyone hear me? Just a thumbs up so I know everyone's still listening and not tapping away on their computers. That would be good. Okay, so I will talk to you a little bit about the early pain and discomfort reporting program that we have. You can move on to the next slide. And really, if I think about where we are at ASB, we're a little bit further along than Carol is on the first start to her journey. And hence, I like the reference to prequel, which is awesome. I guess we're now getting into kind of the middle part of the story, which is around how we have now implemented pain and discomfort a couple of years ago, and how it's moving forward and how it's changed our business considerably to really focus on, we call them that near miss space, which is something that is in place, or a control that we've put in place to ensure that we are mitigating any further risk or preventing the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. So at ASB, we have over 6,000 employees. And as you can imagine, we have work-related as well as non-work-related injuries reported in our safety system. And what we've done is, when I first started 3 years ago, we had around 20 long-term claims that had been going on for quite some time. And as you can imagine, we've had some leaders who have not necessarily understood how to manage those employees and ask them to kind of stay connected to their employees, as well as include them in day-to-day activities to make sure that not only their physical well-being is taken care of, but also their mental well-being, to ensure that they still remain having that connectedness. Mm-hmm. So we put in a prevention program with our partners, Geneva Health, who are occupational physicians or occupational therapists, and they help us with this program. So what we did was we created a platform called Health Central, as we call it at ASB. And what Health Central does is it starts the process. If you're starting to feel that kind of niggle in your hand or your shoulders, or you're carrying the stress in your shoulders, etc., you have the opportunity to report a early pain and discomfort incident into our system. And then that flags a couple of areas that you can go and have a look at to self-serve first. And you'll see on the screen, this is just an example of what Health Central looks like. It is housed by Synergy Health. They are used by many different organisations, such as New Zealand Police, as well as New Zealand Post. And we also get to tap into some of the resources that they have developed, as it's a platform that they've created, that we have our people being able to log into, and then they're able to tap into some of the self-help things like videos or examples of how to set up your desk correctly or to have the right furniture, etc. So we refer them to this space first. And then we move on to, if it still continues, then we provide them with an occupational oh, okay. NZ Post doesn't use it. They did in the past. So thank you for the correction. Awesome. So it does kind of help us to then allow our people, if they're still struggling, to tap into the occupational therapist. They are then assigned an occupational therapist to work with them to decide whether they need additional equipment at home and at work. So it's not only related to working in the office, it also relates to how their desks are set up in their home environment. We have a lot of flexibility at ASB, and one of the things that we work on is we have a policy called Work Anywhere in New Zealand, which really helps our people to design their workspaces in their office as well as in their home office. So we also are quite I'd say quite progressive in the way that we provide our people with the right equipment. So that goes from standing desks to descalators. For those of you who don't know what a descalator is, it sits on your desk and you can lift it up and down. It's far cheaper than getting a stand desk. But it does, I have one myself and it works really, really well because you're able to lift your screens, etc., and have them at the right site. And then also with regards to chairs, specific mice or mouses that you may need, and anything else that is going to help you to be comfortable in your space. They are then also given if they need, 3 sessions of physio. And that could be not only from a Western or modern world kind of therapy, but also we look at perhaps if someone's seeking a Māori treatment or something that's close to them that's going to help them, acupuncture or Thai massage or whatever that looks like that's going to help them. It's not just specific to a physiotherapist. So they have 3 sessions that is on us at ASB. And if they require more, we do provide that going on the recommendation from the occupational therapist. Now, as you can imagine, it does cost a fair bit of money. However, the benefits to it, and you can move to the next slide, is really to understand how our people are progressing in their mental well-being as well as their health. So if you can imagine someone comes to us and they may be, like myself, carrying stress in your shoulders and your mid-back, and that becomes really sore and you're often finding it difficult to concentrate. By allowing our people to go and get those sessions of whatever physio they would like, or chiropractic sessions, whatever works for them. And then they're able to kind of nip it in the bud and really come back to work feeling like they are cared for, they feel connected, they feel like that sense of belonging, that ASB actually really cares about their health, and they know that they can reach out to the occupational therapist to answer any questions, or they can use our Health Central space to really look at what are some of the material that they can tap into. Now, this slide is an example of our intranet. We have an intranet called Ko-Fi, and on the intranet, again, we have different links to being able to report an early incident, and then also some of the things that you can get help with. One of the things that we do, yeah, Scott, exactly. Helping our staff to be cared for is really, really important. And it's something that we pride ourselves at ASB on, is creating that environment where people feel that belonging and also able to speak up. So we do a bit of education around educating our leaders and understanding what the pain and discomfort program is, so that they are able to support their people. Because if your leaders don't understand the process, it's going to be very difficult for them to support someone who's, off work because they're really suffering from pain and discomfort. And we don't want to wait till the ambulance at the bottom of a cliff, which is our ACC claims. Yes, sometimes that's inevitable. It's going to happen. However, we've gone from 20 long-term claims to now maybe 1 or 2 every 3 months, which is incredible because it's really dropped our spend with our TPA being Well NZ, but also helping our people to really get to that, using that early pain and discomfort program before it becomes an ACC problem. So yes, it's not 100% perfect, but we continuously have to send out that awareness around the program. We have started to introduce, we call them learning bites, to our reps. So we have 260 health and safety reps across ASB, and we use them as our eyes and ears on the floor. And what we do with them is we create learning bites around the program, and always thinking about how we can bring in new videos or podcasts or discussions around the program so it brings it to light. So maybe choosing an idea would be to choose maybe an area around stress in your shoulders, or struggling with connecting with your teams while you have some teams working in the office and some working at home. Thinking about the setup of your desks, doing a risk assessment. We've created a risk assessment which includes the physical setup of your desk, as well as how you're connecting from a mental and physical space as well. So we have those in place. We even go as far as asking our people to take photos of their desk setup at home, and to have those discussions within their team to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, they feel well. Our vision for health, safety and wellbeing is better, sooner, safer, by building strongest foundations which help our people to thrive. And I think that's really fitting for ASB, because it's not just a health and safety and wellbeing strategy vision, it's our overall ASB vision. And in that health, safety and wellbeing space, we are not just saying, oh, this is an add-on on the side, we're bringing it into business as usual. So we like to think about these programs as part of business as usual. So just as we think about every other risk within ASB, we think about this pain and discomfort risk, and how we manage that is really important to us. So I'm going to pause there because that's a lot to take in, and Wes, you can move to the next slide. But I think we're still moving on our journey, but this is kind of just some examples of what you could potentially put in place to help people have these discussions around pain and discomfort before it becomes that ACC claim. And then you've got to put a lot of admin and work around, which Carol alluded to in that space. But I think having these proactive approach, or near miss approach as we call them in health, safety and wellbeing, really goes a long way to avoiding having those long-term injuries in the future. Next slide. I think that's it from me. I'll pause there. Again, just an example of our pain and discomfort process. I'm always happy to kind of talk through this with you privately if you want to give me a call or drop me an email. But again, this is progressing as we move in our maturity journey. As I've said, we have gotten quite far in our journey of including our ELT, so our executive leaders, talking about this, and then bringing it down to the floor, as well as from the bottom up, which is having a strong frontline leadership, which is our reps, and we put a lot of emphasis into this program, and that's why I think it's become such a success. Yes, we have lots to learn still. I'm not going to say it's, as I've said before, 100% correct, However, I really am happy with where we're progressing in this space because the numbers speak volumes. As our numbers for pain and discomfort reporting goes up, our numbers decrease for the long-term or ACC claims going down. Again, this is not only for work-related claims, we also offer it for non-work-related claims. So it really does make a difference in that space. And having that partnership with the likes of Geneva Health has been really awesome to see that partnership grow, and how often I will see the occupational therapist walking on the floor or in our building, helping people set up their desks or going to their homes, doing sessions online. So there's all sorts of ways that they can interact with our people, and our people absolutely love that approach, and they feel that belonging and connection to ASB as our whānau grows. That's me.
Oh, thank
Hand
you
over
very
to
much.
Kerry-Ann.
They really appreciate it. You're dead right in saying that, executive leaders as well as the HSRs are so important when it comes to rolling out any health and safety well-being program. So it is vital. It's glad to hear that that is working for ASB. Another important thing I thought there was the whole that you include non-work, which is absolutely fantastic. So now moving on to Kerry-Ann. Thank you much, Kerry-Ann. The floor is yours.
Excellent, thank you. Well, I know for myself, I've actually learned quite a bit from both Carol and Deb this morning, and thinking of ways that I can currently tweak my own system. Wes, I'll get you to move along this slide.
Yeah, one sec. I think there might be a gremlin in my computer.
Yes.
Apologies, everyone. Give me 1 sec. I'll get to the right slide. It seems like something is not working properly. Give me 2 secs.
Cool. I'll just add, Wes, that one of the things we spoke about in terms of our senior leaders is that we're actually holding a breakfast where our health and safety reps get to talk to the board. And one of the topics is around near miss reporting. And they're going to be talking a lot around this pain and discomfort program and how it's made a difference to the organization. So just give you an example of how important your reps are to be connected with your executive leaders and your board to really start to tell the real story of what's going on. So just wanted to add that while you were getting Kerry-Ann's slides.
Great initiative. There we go. Excellent.
Amazing.
So I have taken a slightly different approach to the early notification of pain, and I'm going to be speaking more about the psychosocial aspects. So if we go to the next slide, I do apologize, my slides are wordy, but I'm not going to read off them. You guys can do that all for yourself, but it was important to have that information there. So with regards to ENOC, we know that there's multiple reasons for pain and discomfort, obviously within the workplace and by the tasks that they're performing. But then also if you take into account age, gender, predisposition as well, thinking of females in their 40s that quite often will end up with pain and discomfort in their wrists, and that's a lot to do with childbirth and carrying children on their hips and picking them up constantly, and the type of work that they do on a regular basis. So when looking at this, it's not just looking purely at what's going on in the workplace, it's also looking at what's going on in the external home life. So, hobbies, if they're active or inactive once they leave work. And as we all get older, we all know that we can go to bed feeling fine and then wake up going, what the hell's happened? I now can't move my neck. So, sleeping wrong, you sneeze wrong, and then you're in pain and discomfort. If I can get you to change slides for me. So when we look at the psychosocial aspects to consider in the workplace, if you've been in the health and safety profession for a while, you'll have a very clear understanding of that. But obviously, when we're looking at the actual work that's being performed, how much of it, what sort of relief that you get from that work, whether you've got great communication within your business or if you're not feeling heard, all of these external factors, particularly unrealistic expectations and deadlines, we know that they come up more than often. It's quite cyclical, and so you've got your troughs and your highs, but for some people, it feels as if it's just a constant. And I've got a couple of examples of instances where I've been asked to get involved with pain and discomfort. So if we go to the next page, please. As I explained in my introduction, I've worked predominantly in manufacturing and factory settings. And so I've got two examples, one being a factory setting and then one being a more office type setting. So one of the previous companies that I worked for quite a few years ago didn't have a health and safety person when I started, and I was actually in their customer services team and doing architectural specification writing, and went on holiday, came back to find out that I'd been put onto the health and safety committee. So turned up to this health and safety committee meeting and went, why are we being reactive to absolutely everything? Then got told, why don't you come put your money where your mouth is, and ended up as their health and safety person. So spent a lot of time at EMA learning about health and safety and trying to figure out how we could better help our team. So we manufactured door and window hardware over on the North Shore in Albany, and one of the products that we made was window handles. So on this particular day, nothing had been overly reported that there'd been any issues. I walk in to find that I had 6 pain and discomfort forms, and basically you could look at it and go, one person wrote it and the other 5 people copied it. So it was really important to do the investigation because it was obvious that there was a bigger issue than them stating that they had sore wrists. Having got them in one by one, we found out that the actual frustration was because the machine that they worked on, so it was a big rotary table, kept stopping. So every time it stopped, they had to then get off their seats, they had to go and reset the machine, they had to then come back, and parts of the components had missed, and it was just becoming an absolute frustration for them. They had spoken to a team leader, but nobody had really taken too much notice, and they just thought, just complaining. So after speaking to the 6th person and getting an understanding of what their true frustration was, I gave them a piece of paper and a pen, and then I set a timer for an hour. And in that hour, I asked them to just put a simple line drawing as to how many times the machine stopped. Because we then had data to provide to the engineering team and to the team manager, we could go back and say that I think it had stopped 33 times in an hour period. And this was horrific to them. They hadn't realized the extent of the issue. By that afternoon, the machine had been reworked. It was working beautifully. There was an engineer on hand in the area for the rest of the day and for the few days thereafter. And I had no more reports of pain and discomfort. And so for me, when a pain and discomfort form comes through, being able to do, sometimes it's more of an investigation into it as opposed to an actual injury, because there's so many other factors that go into it as well. The outcome here was that eventually the team was really happy. The problem being that I then had with our managers was that they were raising health and safety issues because they felt that that was the only way to get anything done. So there was a lot more education that was required with our team leaders on the factory floor as to taking note of the situations that people were raising with them. And then overall, the productivity increased because they had a machine that was actually working the way it should be. Next slide, please, there, Wes. So this is more of an office setting example, and this is not to say that pain is not real. Pain is real, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's an actual injury there. So when I look at this particular office setting, I had somebody that came and spoke to me with regards to having pain in their neck and shoulder. We looked at their desk setup. We have adjustable desks. We've got really good, decent office chairs. We encourage people to take their breaks. We have a app that's on our Teams, which is called Please, which stops and gets people to get up and do movement as well, so that they're not constantly just sitting at their desks. And then having this conversation, this person actually got really upset. And I was like, well, what's the problem here? So sometimes it's just being that listening ear for them to get it off their chest as to what their problem is. And so speaking with this person, it really came down to the amount of workload they had. They didn't feel that they could go and speak to their manager about it because there was a project on. And so a lot of it was this sort of self-pressure that they were putting on themselves. And so we had to talk through that. So taking into account, I'm not HR, I'm also not a sales manager of any description, I'm health and safety, wellbeing, sat there and went, right, what is it that you've got on? Let's open your calendar. And we sat there and we went through their calendar as to what do you need to be a part of? What can you pass on to somebody else? And how can we get it down to you focusing on the few things that you need to? After having these conversations and gaining that person's trust, yes, we still got them off to have some physio because they were suffering from some pain and discomfort. However, we were able to get to a point where we were able to bring their manager into the conversation, talk about their overall workload, and have some of that reduced because there were some things in their calendars that weren't critical that could be dropped off. They're bouncy balls. They'll bounce and you can pick them up later. They're not made of glass. And funnily enough, the neck and shoulder pain subsided when they felt as though they were listened to. They had obviously had some physio as well. But it really was about providing that psychological safe space for them to be able to raise their issues and concerns with. And again, safety or well-being being used as that mechanism for looking at bigger issues within the workplace. I think that's me. Thanks, Wes.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much, Kerry-Ann. I really appreciate it. And I love the examples that you've used. Everyone, please make sure to use the chat function if you've got any questions. We do have a couple of questions here that I can kick off for everyone. So doesn't matter, anyone can jump in and answer the question. But the first one is, since implementing early notification intervention programs, have you seen an increase or a decrease in events? In events? And what are your thoughts on this?
I'll jump in there, Wes. Definitely saw an increase in notification, and my first role in safety when I introduced anything to do with safety, whether it be reporting or early notification of pain, I actually got pulled aside and said, what are you doing? Because we never had all these issues before. We absolutely had the issues. It's just that there was no way of people being able to report it and then get the support and help that was required. So yes, initially, and I think the others would have said already, you do see quite a bit of a spike in claims coming through. And then once they're able to be managed, it sort of comes down. And just answering that question there, it's called Please, Pleas, which is in a Teams app.
Thank you.
Yeah, so can I also just reiterate on what Kerry said on that question? In my previous role at Goodman Fielder, when we introduced this ENOP program, we did see a spike in physio claims. And the same concern was raised in EEC. We are encouraging people to be heard, but that's not so. So the way that, we looked at it was, I don't mind if our physio costs go up, but our actual injury numbers and claims reduce, because to me, that's the right ratio. If you've got, increased ENOP claims or costs, as well as injury costs, then you might want to look at what's going wrong. But it's not to be alarmed if you see that cost go up, but you've got to look at it in relation to your other costs as well, and claims. So it's not just a sort of single measure, to decide whether it's successful or not.
Excellent. Do you like to add anything, Deb?
Yeah, I think I feel exactly the same. I don't for me, I see it as a near miss, and we want people to report near misses, right? So we want that to go up. So I don't have a problem with increased reporting. I think that shows good awareness for me around, we're doing our job in terms of getting that awareness out. Our people are now accessing that early pain and discomfort program, which has had and you can see it just has an effect on our injuries in the long run. So not just from a cost perspective, but also from, I think there's a bit of an education piece around your executive leaders understanding that it's okay to see that increase. As long as it's that near miss reporting, we don't want it to be the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. So I think Carol's right. You would have a problem if that was going up as well. But if your near misses are going up, then yeah, that's great.
Excellent. Deb, I just want to carry on with something that you said towards your presentation. And I know you've answered the first part, but there's a second part to this as well. And please, Carol and Kirian, you're more than welcome to answer as well. Do you use email programs solely for work-related discomfort, or do you use to include non-work-related discomfort? But the part that I'm also interested in is, please explain the reasoning behind your approach for either including it or not including it.
Yeah, I think for me, it just gives our people that well-being sense that they're being cared for. And I think Carrie-Anne touched on this a lot, is that, that psychosocial piece. We at ASB, we don't call it psychosocial because our people don't connect with that word. So we call it mentally healthy work because it's about the work that we do. So for us to get them more connected to knowing that they are cared for and they feel that sense of belonging, because that's our values at ASB, goes a long way for keeping people, yes, productive. That's the ultimate goal. However, it's also that feeling that they are being cared for. They're feeling like we are a family rather than just an employer. Hope that answers your question.
And I think too, David and Reese, if I could just jump in again, we care for the whole person. We don't just care about the person at work. We care for the whole person. So if they're coming into work already not great with some niggles or aches or pains, we care about that. So
yeah.
Absolutely. The cost associated with helping somebody out with a non-work related pain and discomfort, the return on investment that you get back from that is tenfold. And if you can keep somebody at work as opposed to having them then go off and end up on ACC if they're managing to get through that claim sort of process. Look, I've had staff members that have been off on ACC for 12 months or more through pain and discomfort type injuries, and we would much rather keep them back at work for that connectedness piece and for their mental well-being in general.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think one of the things that is good to just mention is that occupational therapists don't only look at that physical part, they also look at the well-being of the person. So when we say that we provide someone with an occupational therapist, we're not only providing them with that physical relief, but also being able to have that sounding board from a mental well-being perspective. Because often with shoulder pain, for example, it's stress related, right? So many times that if you're feeling stressed, you're likely to experience the pain more. So it's more of a holistic view. So Carrie-Anne, very much what you were talking about, really loved bringing how you brought in that psychosocial piece into the space, because I think that's probably the key to ensuring the well-being of our people, which will go a long way hand in hand with that physical ailment.
Absolutely.
Excellent. No, thank you. I was about to ask the question about, the use of OTs and physios and all of that, and it seems like you've answered that question. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate that one. There's a question here. What training programs can be implemented to educate workers about the importance of early notification of discomfort or pain?
Look, I've done in-house training in the past with regards to why you would report an early notification of pain. I like to use the ripple effect. So, when you drop a stone in a pond and the ripples that come out from it. So initially, when you talk about them not being able to work necessarily, if they've left it too long and they're unable to remain at work because of the pain and discomfort then becoming an injury, how that affects them as a person, but then how it affects their external communities, so the people they work with, then that next layer of being their families. So, with working in manufacturing, and particularly with a lot of Pacifica in previous roles, family and their community, so whether it be their church groups, etc., was incredibly important. So bringing those external factors back into it really has a huge impact on getting them to understand why it's so important to be notifying us early, so that we can get the right treatment for them, so that they're not in pain, because we don't want people being at work and being unable to do the things that they love when they go home at the end of the day.
That's a good one. Any additions from both of you?
No, but yeah, just touching on what Kerry-Ann has said, it is that ripple effect, and the message is you have pain for a reason. So if you start to feel a niggle, that's your body telling you something's not right. And unless we get in there early, it's like that. Gosh, I don't know if we still teach these to our kids, those a stitch in time saves 9. But, if you get in there early, you stop a thing from becoming worse than it has to. We can get you well and back to enjoying the things that you enjoy doing. It's not so we can squeeze another hour's work out of you. And so, you can go and kick a football around with your children or whatever it is you love to do outside of work, because, yeah, as you said, it's that holistic approach. We don't just care about the work we care about the whole of you. And if we don't know about it, it doesn't give us an opportunity to help and support, stopping that from becoming an injury or something that's going to take a lot longer to fix.
Yeah, I agree with you, Carol. I think from my perspective, sometimes it's hard to put lots of different training programs around. A lot of us have very small teams in health and safety, and I cannot reiterate enough about how powerful using your reps can be to, be your voices and your on the ground. So again, I would be looking at how can you empower your health and safety reps to help you get the message across, or to talk about these things more often. So just by having conversations in their day-to-day work, or their business as usual meetings or catch-ups or whatever that is kind of bringing these conversations through them is really important. And one of the ways you can use to not only train people, but because I think that word training is quite confined, but again, think outside the box, think about videos or podcasts or things that you can get real life people in your organization talking about these things day to day.
Thanks, Dave. You've just raised the question. Well, you've basically answered half of the question that was coming up, and that was, for all three of you, rolling out these types of programs. It doesn't matter where you are in your current journey. What are some of those challenges you faced, and what are the potential solutions out there that you use to overcome them?
Cool. I think there's a question there from Efele around how would you encourage that worker to feel like they aren't being lazy, but they are in recovery? From my side, I think that having that connectedness first with the employee, so knowing that you have an open and honest space to have those conversations is awesome. But really kind of helping them and encouraging them and explaining the why, explaining the process, explaining how someone is there to support and help them, and why it's important to get well and fit and be able to continue their duties with their work colleagues and feel that sense of belonging. I don't know if that answers your question, Ophelia, but nice to see you on the call, and I'll open up to anyone else.
I think it's also about educating the wider team, because often, they think, oh, they weren't hurt that bad, but they don't, they're not the injured worker, and we all respond differently to, different different injuries, I guess. So it's about educating the wider team as well, that sometimes you just need a little bit, of care and alternative duties and whatever it takes, whatever support we need to provide to that person, so that we can get them recovered. So I think it's the injured person, because there is often, let's face it, guilt associated with, I'm not doing as much as my teammates, and you can feel like you're letting them down or not doing your bit. But I think it's just to educate everybody that no, this person needs to be doing different things until we can get them back to doing their full role. And I think when you've got physiotherapists and occupational therapists and so on coming into the workplace to help with that creates a visual reminder that the person isn't slacking off, but they actually cannot do their role for however long it is.
Awesome. Well, any last questions from anybody coming through? Doesn't seem like anything popping through. I just want to take this time. If anything pops up, we'll get to it. But other than that, thank you very much, everyone. We hope you found today's session was really valuable. A big thank you to our presenters, for their time and effort and investment in building this collective capability. And if you're not a member of ShopCare, please join us. It's free. Just scan the QR code. And yet again, if you still haven't got a copy of the guidelines, grab a copy as well. There's the other QR code. I'll just give a couple moments for the presenters to say a couple of things before we head off and give you a couple of minutes back to your day.
Cool. Thanks, Wes. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to kind of be on the panel, which is great. It's always good talking about these front of mind things, and I'm really excited to see that guidance. And I think that however we can help one another will be great to kind of get us together and really be able to, not reinvent the wheel, but learn from one another. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Deb.
Yes, same. We all said at the beginning of this, we're not experts by any means, but we learn from each other. We continue to learn and grow in this area. And also don't feel like your system has to be perfect, because I don't think there is such a thing, but we just continue to evolve with the needs of our people and our business.
Yeah, look, not much more to add, obviously. Other ladies have said it all, but it has been great being on the panel, and all I could suggest is steal with pride. When it comes to health and safety, it's not proprietal. Just get in there, use it. More than happy to answer any questions if people want to contact me on LinkedIn or what have you as well. So, and I'm sure Carol and Deb are the same. Happy to share.
Except I'm not on LinkedIn. So get in touch through Wes or I'm at Harvey Norman. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to say, it was Lena Founders, so she's like, after sitting for an hour and listening, she's like, it's time to do some stretches. I like the way you think. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Wes, your host, and until next time, take care.